stadium. Coach, maybe my opening question will just be obviously your thoughts heading into that match. It's all square as you head into the match. I don't know if you view it as having some sort of advantage because you're playing at home. Well, you didn't score away, but just your thoughts heading into that match.
Good afternoon to everyone. I must say we are playing a very tough match against a team that has improved in leaps and bounds, and a team that made sure that we don't score a goal in their backyard, which makes this assignment a little bit of a tough one for both teams because we know what Pirates is capable of, and they also know what we are capable of. But the most interesting thing is that the team has not been scoring enough, our opposition. But since they changed the shape a little bit in the previous match, then they created a lot of opportunities, which I believe they could have taken more than the 2-0 lead that they took. And that presents a new case study now, because all along they've been playing with 3 centre-backs. And this time around, they felt maybe they needed to have a little bit of a punch and be a little bit aggressive, which is something that we have to deal with. But be that as it may, we believe we've got a team that is capable of coming out of this match with a result, obviously with a lot of humility and respect. We are not going to take this game for granted. We know the stakes are high. Yes, one will say, now that we are playing at home, any goal we concede might result in us bombing out of the cup. And that is true. But on the other side, as Sundowns, every match we play, we always go to that match with a mentality to win. So in this space, it doesn't matter whether we concede or what happens. But if at the end of the game we have scored more than the opposition, that is the most important thing, because we always want to win the match. When we did not win in Orlando, we did not feel good. Had we had a 1-1 draw, we would still not feel good. Had we had a 2-2 draw, we would still not feel good, because we go to every match with one thing in mind, to try and make sure that we dominate the pitch, we dominate the ball, we dominate all the metrics that we think can always help in making sure that the outcome of the game is under your control, not dependent on what other people are doing. So we know it's not going to be an easy one. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Let's take questions from the floor, just by a show of hands. And I see Itumeleng is up there, my brother. Kamugelo, sorry.
Afternoon, Coach. Kamugelo Mngqithi, Voice Sports. Coach, going back to the first leg, you look at a player like Andile Jali, who was sort of like humbled, coming back to a familiar territory that he knows, and not necessarily having like one of the best games, to a point where he ended up substituting. So what then do you say to him going into the second leg?
No, man, Andile is a big boy. He's not a small boy. And to be honest, I don't think he played bad in the previous match. I just think when we wanted to inject a little bit of intensity, we made a choice of taking him out, but it was not necessarily because he had a bad performance. And when you say he was humbled, I think maybe you are talking about what Salem did to him. But the truth of the matter is, in football, you can expect the same thing. He also did the same thing inside our box and dribbled opponents there, and the opponents were not humbled. It's football. So we must accept sometimes in football that in the line of duty, you will either be dribbled or you will either be embarrassed. But that's the line of duty. If you are a teacher, you must expect that you might get dirty because of chalk in your hands. And if you're in football, you might get injured, you might get dribbled, you might get embarrassed in one way or the other, or you might concede a stupid goal as a goalkeeper. It happens in football. So I I'm not even perturbed by what happened to him, because I know he's a very strong boy and a strong character that probably is itching for the next assignment, which is probably very good and plays to our advantage.
Okay, Coach, let's move on to Tsepo, ENCA.
Thanks, Matu. Hi, Coach. So, in terms of taking the game to Polokwane, there's been debates in terms of Loftus, and that's where Sundowns is fortress. And the thinking behind taking the game to Polokwane instead of Loftus.
We are a growing brand, and we must acknowledge that and appreciate it. As a team, we are trying to conquer as much space as possible within the country, and Polokwane has also proven to be very good for us in many assignments that we have had in that space. So I think it is a very good choice, and a choice that was also guided by the quality of the pitch and the turf, and Sundowns wants to play in a very good pitch, and probably at this stage I don't think there is any other pitch that is better than that one. For us as a growing brand, it is also important to try and encompass as many people as we can in trying to make sure that we make them feel at home and feel part of this successful team.
All right, Mazola, SAPC.
Coach, just wanted to ask if there's an update on Peter Shalulile. Also, if there is one, just the possibility of going such a big game without Peter, who hardly ever actually gets injured. It's a bit strange to see him not feature.
To be honest, I would not want to talk much about our players in our camp. The truth is, the only biggest thing that I'm happy about is that we tried to see how the team can perform without Peter in the last 3 matches, and we have scored 16 goals in 3 matches, and for us that is very important. As to whether he'll be part of this one or not, at this stage I cannot be sure. We did rest him over the last 2-3 matches because we also want to have him as fresh as possible, and probably he might come in as a big surprise for this match. At this stage it's very difficult to say whether he is in or out, because the specialists have to give a call in that space, but his condition is still okay in terms of his physical condition. So we just have to wait and see what comes out of this from the specialists. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Karabo.
Good afternoon, Coach. I think over the last 2-3 games, I've seen a lot of, I wouldn't say positional change, but, Mudiba coming more inside as well as Tapero as well. Is it now a case of Mamelodi Sundowns, the players no longer play the position, but they play the game in the match?
Structurally, from our approach and what we see from the opposition, we do make decisions or calls. Either we want our fullbacks to invert, either we want one of the 2 fullbacks to invert and the other one is high and wide. On Modiba being inverted in some instances, it has also been based on how the opposition structure themselves. Maybe to cite one example, Pirates has always been playing with 1 striker and 2 number 10s. And when they've got those 2 number 10s behind the striker, then your 2 centre backs are already occupying 1 striker, and you've got a +1 in that space. But you've got an elephant in the house with the 2 10s that are behind the striker, and you only have probably a 6 at that time. So it becomes important that a 6 is complemented by either a fullback from one side or an 8. It depends on what we want to see at that time, because maybe if we want our fullback high and wide, then an 8 can occupy that space. So it's something that we've been doing with all the players that have played. The Lyle has also been inverting a lot. Mdau also inverts a lot and helps us a lot in our rest defense. But Modiba, it looks a little bit more interesting because even in play, in possession of the ball, he makes some of the right decisions, and he looks like he's playing an 8 sometimes. So it depends on what we see and what we think is going to happen in that match. Now that Pirates has changed the shape, and we believe after scoring 2 goals, they might stick with that shape, because I think it's the best shape for them in terms of them being offensive and them making sure that they create scoring opportunities. But at the same time, it's a shape that can give us a lot of chances. Thank you.
All right, as we move on, I'm looking for new hands. I've noted you, Tsepo. All right, Benjamin Miranda.
Coach Benjamin Miranda, Football Live. Coach, after the game at Orlando Stadium, when it finished 0-0, you considered yourself that you had no shots at goal. In looking at the way they have changed their system, as you have said, they changed their system when they played Golden Arrows. What are your chances of taking shots and goal and winning this game in the second leg?
No, man. To be honest, I think this issue of no shots at goals was taken to the wrong angle. I think if you look at that game very closely, you will realize that there were many instances where we should have been in even scoring positions than just merely talking about shots at goals. If I can cite a few, the 2 instances where Mudau was found alone in the 3 instances in fact, first half, Mudau was found alone in the far post, where he had terrible maybe execution in terms of crosses. Those could have easily resulted into something. And there was one ball that was played by Ronwin for Peter, who could even have left the ball to go, and he already would have been facing the goalkeeper first half, and he received the ball backwards. That's a very big chance to score a goal, not even to take a shot at goal. You look at Mailula's inclusion in the second half, and even Peter, second half, probably in the last stages of the game, where he was released by Mokoena and he was also released by Zungu on the far post. But his first touch took him to the wrong side. If it took him inside, probably it would have asked Nda whether you are fouling or you are letting him to go and take a shot at goal. So I think this has been taken too far, this issue of the shots at goals. But maybe it ignites a bit of fire even in our team to say, this time around we'll take shots at goals.
All right, as we move along to Neo here, on the left-hand side.
Sure, Coach. Neo from Masangana fan blog. Coach, you speak about Kuliso. I thought yesterday he had a fantastic game defensively and also in the build-up of play, like with the combinations. But the final ball again, and going back to the two or three situations that you speak up about against Pirates in the first leg, where it seems like a lot of situations that you guys have worked for, where you overload on the left and look for the diagonal dodge to the right, and then he missed. His decision making wasn't the best, or his execution. But my question is, do you then overlook, for look up a better word, his final third effort because of how brilliant he is in other departments of his game?
To be honest, I don't think he's terrible in the final third. He's probably one of the best fullbacks in the country, if I'm honest. Not because I'm talking because he's my player. I think in the games against Lepasa, he had 2 assists. And yesterday, if you looked at the game very closely, there was one quick free kick that we took, and he got inside and in front of the fullback, and he played a very good cutback. But unfortunately, both I think Gaston and Tebza were already ahead of the ball. But the ball where it was put yesterday, I just wish he can put such a ball on Saturday, because I believe it will give us a shot at goal. So I must also speak on his behalf, because sometimes players playing in a stage like Orlando Stadium, packed to capacity the way it was. Remember that Mudau has been at Sundowns probably now he's in his third season, if I'm not mistaken. And that atmosphere at Orlando, it's something that he has not seen, if we can be honest, because we played 2 seasons without the crowd. And for him to be in a match like that, it was another new experience, which was also good for his growth and development. And immediately after that match, I think he has come back very strong and improved tremendously in his final third entries, because Mudau is one fullback that has got a dribble, a fullback that has got a pass, a fullback that is strong aerially, a fullback that has got a very good cutback. The only area of his game that still needs a lot of attention is when he makes a decision to put a cross, because a cross sometimes it works. We have scored a very good goal from Mudau and Pavol last season, if I remember very well, against Arrows, if I'm not mistaken. So his crossing ability still has question marks, but a lot of cutbacks that he plays are always dangerous, because he's got the nerve, the right nerve in the final third when he decides to go for a cutback, which is more of a pass than just a cross. So personally, I'm optimistic that if he's available for the Saturday game, probably is one guy that will help us to have more shots at goals.
Moving right along to Colin. Shots at goals, coach.
Yes.
Coach, Colin Hans to his friend. Lately, even the trends international, we see that there's more investment in defenders. And we see the still ways that are happening in the PSL. So maybe we're not giving credit where it's due to us defenders across the board?
To be honest, I wouldn't want to say much about defenders in the PSL and what is happening with the goals not being scored. I think it's more of team tactics more than the defenders as such, because most teams are going for a low block, which means even their strikers, they are not putting pressure on the ball. So by the time you enter the opposition half, you are already facing 10 of the opponents. And if we then give credit to the last line, probably we would not be doing justice to the game, because the other thing that we must also be very much aware of is that most of these teams, they are playing with 3 centre backs, and when you play with 3 centre backs, it's also a sign that you have question marks on the ability of your centre backs if you were to play 2. And when you play 3, you want somebody to be a policeman there and make sure that he cleans whatever mess that the other defenders do. So I wouldn't really want to say I want to give as much credit to the defenders, but rather I would say I would give more credit to the defensive shapes that teams adopt. You look at Richards Bay, look at the number of goals they've scored this season, but look at the position that they are on the log. You look at probably almost all the teams in the top 8, how many goals they've scored this season, and that for me is a hindrance to what should bring people to the stadiums to watch matches, because I think we are not offensive enough as the PSL. Most teams are afraid to open themselves up, just looking for that 30% possession and 30% possibility of getting a set piece and a counter attack to win the match. And that's why teams are winning matches with 1-0, even if I saw another stats when I was looking at the stats yesterday, where a team won the match because they had 1 shot on target and they scored the whole match. You know, remembering that we also did not have even 1 shot on target. So maybe not when we get that 1 shot on target, God will be with us to win the match. So what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to say I'm not too comfortable with the mentality in our league. I know it's also because people are scared to lose their jobs and they can't play the football that they've grew up enjoying, because most of the coaches, they can play a very good brand of football, a little bit expansive to try and dominate the ball, dominate the field, But because people are saying, hey, I would rather not lose, or I must make it difficult for me to lose, then teams go for that 1-0, one counter attack, one set piece, and all that. So for me, it's not the football that I would like to see in our country, because I believe our country is blessed with a lot of talent. And when you give a little bit more freedom in play, you see a little bit more. And probably that is what I'm seeing with teams that are introducing a lot of youngsters now, and youngsters that are really bringing things that we've not thought of. There's this boy that SuperSport brought, I think he's 24, he's only getting a chance to play now as a winger, Maswanganyi or something. Good players. And you want teams to try. Amazulu, I saw they introduced a boy called Ndlovu. Now they are even playing the Manqoba boy. And I can see the good football that our country has, because you want to see this nice contest amongst teams. And I would not want to be somebody who advocates the defensive play, because I believe football is more interesting when teams score goals.
All right, Lawrence.
Coach, you speak about coaches scared of losing their jobs. Yesterday, Ramovich was speaking about the lack of accountability from officials, because there's been obviously some glaring mistakes from referees in the past few games. Going into such a high-profile match, do you agree with the sentiment that some officials get away with murder in the league and in the cup competition?
You know, there are some questions you must not answer when you are playing a big match. You know, I think I should run away from this one. But the truth is, some officials have made glaring mistakes, and they have cost people a lot of points, and some points that could have made a difference in many teams. There is one team that I know that in the past 2-3 matches had maybe 3 or 4 clear scoring opportunities, if not goals scored already. But no, let me keep quiet.
Okay, Temba Shabalala.
Coach, I've picked up something which you playing against Pirates is a headache that you love to have as a coach. And whenever you speak about Pirates, you go into detail to an extent that even banter is created. When you said Kapasi plays in a pattern like that of Pirates, it created a whole lot of social media banter, misunderstood. What does it mean to Sundowns playing against Pirates, especially on this must-win match for both teams? As opposed to playing any other team in the PSL?
No, man, before I go far on this issue of me comparing Pirates and Lepasa, I think it was blown out of proportion by you guys. You come to press conferences with ulterior motives, because all I was saying there, I was talking about the shape. Lepasa has got 3 center backs, they have got 2 wing backs, and they've got 2 central midfielders, 1 9 and 2 10s, just like Pirates has been playing. I was not saying Pirates is at the level of Lepasa, but because when you're a sport journalist, you have a responsibility to educate the country and help the country, not to always try to bring sensationalism into the game, because one day it will come back and bite you. So if you are objective in your analysis and you are critical, and if you don't understand what one is saying, and you just come out openly and ask me, what do you mean by this? It makes it easier than wanting to always create a rift amongst teams and coaches and all that, because that's all I was referring to, which in as much as this opposition is not probably very strong, but structurally it will help us to practice for a match that we are going to play with Pirates, because structurally they are structured almost the same way. And that was for me not comparing the quality of the two teams, but comparing the structures that the two teams were using over the past few matches. And that is what I was saying. And to be honest with you, I like to play big matches. I don't want to lie to you. I hate these matches where when you go to the match, you are already expected to win. Because those matches, that's where you get pleasantly surprised and humbled. You know, but when you are playing a big match, you know, everybody is intrinsically motivated to play that match from the player's side. And you as a coach, you dig a little bit deeper. You want to try and understand exactly what makes this particular team to be regarded as a big team as compared to other teams that maybe are regarded as smaller teams. So it makes you to dig a little bit deeper and be more meticulous in looking at exactly what is happening. That makes them to have the respect that they have, because you want to win. You want to win that match as a coach. The players want to win that match. But also you have a responsibility to strike the balance, because sometimes the desire to win the match makes you to be over anxious, which I think in the previous match in Orlando, our team made some elementary mistakes because we were too anxious, maybe trying too hard to make an impression. So the match like with Pirates now, honestly speaking, I believe Pirates is playing good football. And I will not want to take that away from them. And I also believe we play good football. And that, as somebody who is a student of the game and who likes good football, I want those matches. I don't want matches where the other one is sitting, it does not want to play, the other one is playing. I want a game of football where it's a contest and everybody wants to get the result, maybe by dominating the ball and dominating the pitch. And yesterday, in the previous match, Pirates really did what they were supposed to do to win the match. They got more chances to win the match in the previous match. And that for me is always an inspiration to say, what did we do wrong? And we dig deeper and see how best can we improve in that aspect. But truth be told, it's a match that you also have the interest to watch.
All right, Tsepo, Tovani, ENCA. As we wrap up.
Thanks, Coach. Coach, this is obviously the final before the final. I remember in the first leg, you told us that you expected a lot of goals in that game, but there were no goals, but it was very interesting for a 0-0 scoreline. This time around, Konozo Kelisiche is coach. What are you expecting for the second leg? Thank you.
I wish I could have a specific answer for exactly what I'm expecting in this game, because the metrics that are there for both teams create a very interesting argument. Because for Pirates to really score a lot of goals, probably they have to open the game up. And but Pirates again, when you look at what they've done throughout the season, where they have not dominated the game, that's when they've become very dangerous, where they give you the ball and only hope to punish you when you make mistakes. Transitionally, they are one of the quickest teams, and they get to the box as early as 4 seconds sometimes. So that is the interesting part. But when they played against Golden Arrows, where they managed to score more than they normally do, they really put their first foot forward. They were very initiative, they pressed from the top, they wanted to dominate possession, they wanted to dominate probably all the metrics, and they did very well in that match. Which of the two Pirates I want to play against, I will not lie to you and say which one, because both of them have got their own pros and cons, but I think that is what makes for a very interesting contest.
All right, Coach, thank you very much. I think we're going to have to end.